last messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. They had gone out on the day to the mountains of Mecca to escape persecution from the Quraysh. So this is why they was out there. It was not long before Abdullah ibn Mas'ud became a Muslim. Because now look, check this out. The Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr was so impressed with his character by not giving them something that he did not have permission for. And he was impressed with their character by being his elder and not submitting to him. So the story goes on that Ibn Mas'ud was so impressed that he wanted to know who the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was. So he gave up tending sheep in exchange for looking for the needs of the blessed Prophet ﷺ. In other words, he wanted to come in service to the Prophet ﷺ. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud remained closely attached to the Prophet. He would attend to his needs both inside and outside the house. He would accompany him on journeys, expeditions. He would wake him when he slept. He would shield him when he washed. He would carry his staff, his miswak, and attend to other personal needs. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud received a unique training in the household of the Prophet ﷺ, and he was under strict guidance of the Prophet ﷺ. He adopted his manner and followed his every trait until it was said of him by other Sahaba, he was the closest to the Prophet ﷺ in character. Now he imitated the Prophet ﷺ so much that when other Sahaba seen him, they was like, there go an example of the holy last messenger ﷺ. That's deep. Who are we following? Who are we exemplifying ourselves after? Who is our children exemplifying ourselves after? You will know that when you go to Wally World or Walmart or the toy factory and you get them Spider-Man. That'll answer your question. Abdullah was taught in the school of the Prophet ﷺ. He was the best reciter of the Quran among the companions. And he understood better than them all. He was therefore most knowledgeable of the Sharia. Nothing can illustrate this better than the story of a man who came to Umar ibn Khattab as he was standing on the plain of Arafat and said, I have come to Umar al-Mu'mineen from Kufr. When I left, a man filing copies of the Quran from memory. Umar became so angry and paced up and down beside his camel, fuming. This sounds like Umar, don't it? He said, who is it? He asked, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, replied the man. Upon hearing this, Umar's anger subsided and he regained his composure. Then he busted dude out. He said, woe to you. You know, we would have said something else. He said to the man, by Allah, I don't know any person left who is more qualified in this manner than he is. Let me tell you about this man, Umar continued. One night, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was having a conversation with Abu Bakr about the situation of the Muslims. I was with them. When the Prophet left, we left with him. Also, as we passed through the mosque, there was a man standing in prayer whom we did not recognize. The Prophet ﷺ stood and listened to him, then turned to us and said, whoever wants to read the Quran as fresh as when it was revealed, then let him read according to the recitation of Ibn Mas'ud. After the prayer, as Abdullah sat making supplications, the Prophet ﷺ asked, and it will be given to you. Ask, and it will be given to you. Umar continued, I said to myself, should I go to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud straight away and tell him the good news of the Holy Last Messenger ﷺ, accepting his dua? I went and I did so, but I found out that Abu Bakr had beat me to it and conveyed the good news to him. Umar said, by Allah, I have never been able to beat Abu Bakr in anything. SubhanAllah, be humble, man. This goes straight way to why Dawood alayhi salatu salam asked Allah, whom in this world you love? So I can go love him too. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud attained such knowledge of the Quran that he would say, revealed without my knowing where it was revealed and the circumstances of its revelation. So in other words, he had the tafsir and the circumstances of each ayat that came to the Holy Last Messenger while it was being revealed. By Allah, if I know there was anyone who knew more of the book of Allah, I will do whatever is in my power to be with him. Abdullah was so exaggerating in what he said about himself. Once Umar ibn al-Khattab met a caravan, one of his journeys as a Khalifa. This is when Umar was a Khalifa. And this caravan came. So Umar is standing on the side of the hill and the caravan is going by. So Umar yells out from a deep valley, he said, "Where are you going?" They said, "To the ancient house." "There's a learned person among them," said Umar. He commanded someone to ask the person which part of the Quran is the greatest. Now Umar didn't know, in other words, who all was in the caravan. But he knew that somebody learned amongst them was there. So Umar said, which part of the Quran is the greatest? So this brother that he did not know said, "Allah, there is no God but him, the living, the self-sustaining, neither slumber overtakes him nor sleep." Replied the person answering, quoting Ayatul Kursi. SubhanAllah, thank you. So then Umar asked him, which part of the Quran is most clear on justice? The man replied, "Allah commands what is just and fair and feeding of the relatives." Then Umar asked, what is the most comprehensive statement in the Quran? He replied, "Whoever does an atom weight of good shall see it, and whoever does an atom weight of evil shall see it." Umar asked, which part of the Quran gives rise to the greatest hope? The man replied, "Say, O my servants who have wasted their resources, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins. He is the forgiving, the compassionate." Thereupon Umar asked, "Is this Abdullah ibn Mas'ud?" He says, "Yes, by Allah." The man in the caravan replied, "Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was not only reciter of the Quran, a learned man, a frequent worshiper, he was in addition a strong and courageous fighter, one who became deadly serious when the occasion demanded." Now I'm going to get to the end because we're running out of time. Check this out. He went on reciting before the Muslims came out and proclaimed Islam to the Quraysh. They were sitting amongst themselves and asking who would go out and do this. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud insisted. And he said, "No, man, you're too young. You can't go out there, man. These dudes are going to beat the crap out of you." Abdullah ibn Mas'ud insisted. And he said, upon this, the Prophet ﷺ allowed him to go. He said, "Allah shall protect me and keep me away from their evil." And when he went out to the mosque until he reached the Masjid of Ibrahim, it was the dawn and the Quraysh was sitting around the Kaaba. Abdullah stopped in the maqam and began to recite, "Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Allama al-Quran, Khalaqa al-Insan, Allama al-Bayan." In the name of Allah, the merciful God, He has taught the Quran and has created man. Upon hearing this, the Quraysh got up and started beating the crap out of him. Right? They went up to him, started beating him in his face, and he continued to recite the Quran. By Allah, he replied, "The enemies of God are not more comfortable than at this moment. If I wish, I shall go out tomorrow and do the same thing again." Abdullah ibn Mas'ud lived in the time of the Khalifa Uthman. May Allah be pleased with him. Listen to his dying words. Check this out, man. When he was sick on his deathbed, Uthman came to visit him and said, "What is your ailment?" In other words, what's wrong with you? He said, "My sins." "And what is it that you desire?" He said, "The mercy of my Lord." He said, "Shall I not give you a stipend, which you have refused to take all of these years from now?" He said, "I have no need of it." So Uthman said, "Well, let it be for your daughters after you." So Ibn Mas'ud asked him, "Do you fear poverty for my children? I have commanded them to read Surah Al-Waqiyah every night, for I have heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever reads Al-Waqiyah every night shall be not afflicted with poverty ever in their life. This is the mamalat and the mercy of Allah Ta'ala within His kitab. And this is what we ignore. That night, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud passed away to the company of his Lord. His tongue was moist with the remembrance of Allah and the du'as of His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Dear beloved Muslims, I conclude with this. These are just one of many examples that Allah Azza wa Jal gives us through the mercy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I told you I was afraid because Allah has blessed me. On Monday I will be leaving for Hajj. And I do not know whether my heart is pure enough to enter the house of Allah Ta'ala. When I was a young man, about 13, an Imam gave a khutbah. And he was speaking about Hajj. And in the 80s, the Kaaba is much different now than it was in the 80s. He said that there would be men that would start walking 6 months before Hajj began. And they would walk to a certain city, and they would meet up with more brothers that's walking to the house of Allah. Then they would walk to another city and meet up with more brothers that was walking to the house of Allah. And so all of them walked to the house of Allah. He said the most magnificent thing about the story was that all of these brothers were 60 and older. It took them 6 months to get to the house of Allah. They get to the gate of the Kaaba, to one of the doors, and they holding on, crying to Allah Ta'ala, I am not fit to enter your house. Now we know the hadith of Rasulullah that says that every step that you take to the Masjid of Allah, that there's hasana in it. Can you imagine walking 6 months to the Kaaba, and you get there, and you feel that you're not worthy? So just imagine how I feel. I thought that I would be able to take this trip with my wife, and I am not. That's another fear of mine, because since me and my wife have been married, I have never been separated from her more than 2 days. So now what it comes down to is that I have to trust Allah in a way I bear witness against myself. I have never trusted Allah in this way at all. May Allah forgive me. And this is the part of control that we all think we have. This is why I started out with the story of Dawood alayhi salatu salam and ended with the story of Ibn Mas'ud alayhi salatu salam. Because Allah in His mercy has shown all of us how to believe and love Him. And it's very simple. If we just give up what we think we know and what we think we own, maybe, just maybe, just maybe, just maybe, Allah will have mercy on us and we will be able to meet the Holy Last Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on the other side of the Sirat. That is my goal. I ask you all to make dua for me as I make dua for you. I ask you all to keep my family that I leave behind in your du'as and look after them if you can. I pray Allah Ta'ala that if I do not see you all again in this life, that I will see you in Jannah Firdaus. But if I do see you again, if Allah allows me to come back, because my brother said he doesn't believe that Allah has brought me here to be your Imam. I moved to this city and Allah is not finished with me yet. So I'm hoping that Allah is not finished with me yet.